Welcome back to the Douglas Podcast, the one and only podcast guaranteed to make you fall asleep before you finish. My name is Douglas, and today we're talking about something that I'm very passionate about for no good reason at all, because it doesn't affect me at all. We're talking about Mount Everest. But before we get into Mount Everest, today's episode is sponsored by the Nepal travel industry. Do you want to shamelessly exploit nature for the profit of a nation? Do you want your whole nation's income to be dependent on one tourist attraction? Well, the Nepal Travel Agency is who you want to be looking for, because their one-way trips up Mount Everest support their whole economy. All right, let's get into it. You may be like, Douglas, why are you talking about Mount Everest? It's just a mountain. And the answer is because Bella wanted me to, and I've got a lot of passionate thoughts about it. So originally, Mount Everest, as you all know, the highest peak in the world. It's the highest mountain. Now, not if you consider like under the ocean, because there's a lot of like underwater mountains and like trenches that far surpass it. But if you're just talking about above surface level, in terms of distance above surface level, Mount Everest is the highest there is. And originally, it used to be an accomplishment to get up there. You had to train really hard, be super in shape. You had to get like oxygen packs with you. A very dangerous journey. People like died on the way up there. And you made it to the top. You really felt like it was an accomplishment. But now, here's the issue. So Mount Everest is right on the border of two countries. There's two ways to get up it. One is the Nepal side, and the other side is not important because I don't know the name of the country, unfortunately. But I know that the other side is very steep and very difficult and not great conditions to be climbing up a mountain, especially compared to the Nepal side. The Nepal side is a lot more doable. I'm talking doable as if you're not climbing the tallest peak in the world. It's more doable than the other side. So most people go up the Nepal side. And it was great and everything until the Nepalese government realized, hey, people want to climb up these mountains. We could make money out of it, make this a tourist attraction. And so they start making like, they have like base camp at like the base of the mountain. It's like a cabin where you can stay and, stay before the trip. Then you have all your stuff there. You go up the mountain, you come back down, you got somewhere to stay. Basically like it's like a fancy hotel resort. And, that's great. But what started happening is, as it got more and more popular, we have what's called Sherpas, which are Nepalese people who are indigenous to the area, and they are very good at traversing the mountains. And I want to make it clear from the get-go, got nothing against the Sherpas. They are very talented people. They are actually very skilled, as you'll see why in a moment. But they're very skilled at mountain climbing, and they do deserve all the praise for all that they do. Because what started happening is people would find these Sherpas and be like, hey, I'll give you thousands of dollars if you help me up the mountain. And they're like, of course I'll take the thousands of dollars to help you up this mountain. And so they'd pay them, and the Sherpas would like help them get all the gear they needed and like help them set up camps along the way and take them all the way up. And more people saw them like, hey, that's a great idea. I'll start paying these Sherpas money and help me take me up the mountains. And it's continued to a point where it's become less of a feat of how good of a mountain climber you are to get up there to just how much money can you spend. It's just become like a rich vacation. You just pay a Sherpa and they do all the work taking you up there. They carry all your stuff and you're just like lackadaisically walking up this mountain for I don't know how long it takes. And That's why I'm like good on the Sherpas, because they go up and down that mountain like nobody's business. They know the mountain like the back of their hand. They are experts on that mountain. They do a great job. It's the tourists that are the issue, because now it's become so popular. I'm sure you've probably seen videos online where the peak of Mount Everest covered in trash, flags, everything left behind from people. And when you get up there, there's like a big, like hour-long line of people in their Sherpas just like lined up to get to the top of the mountain to, I guess, take a selfie or something. And we'll get into all my opinions about this in the opinion section, but the it's just a huge line to get up there. And the issue that happens is, even though you've got Sherpas guiding you, you're still at a very high altitude where it is very cold, oxygen is very low, and you're standing in one spot, not really moving for an hour or more. What happens is, in the line to get to the peak, people are like passing out, they're fainting. There's tons of dead bodies on Mount Everest, to the point where some dead bodies are used as like markers so that the Sherpas know where to go. And you might be like, well, Douglas, why don't they just clean it up? Because Mount Everest is still a pretty high peak. You'd have to send a crew up there. I mean, of course, with dead bodies, you have to do all the proper like forensics and the investigation and stuff, and notify the family. You can't just like fly a plane up there, because it's too high. You can't just like helicopter up there, or else people would just helicopter to the top of Mount Everest. The only real way to get there is to hike up there. And the problem is that it's full of people. And it's way too dangerous for like law enforcement to hike up there, and like maybe pay the Sherpas to get up there and do it. But then you're dealing with shutting down the mountain for however long it takes every time there's a dead body, which is like every day. And it's become this issue where now Nepal's economy depends on these tourists to pay that money to the Sherpas, because that's what they got going for them. Their economy is not import or export based, it's tourism based. And so their economy relies on this constant flow of people coming up the mountain, so they can't shut down the mountain. They can't pause all that. Their economy needs it. And we've gotten in the situation where now the mountain has become a crowded tourist destination with trash and dead bodies everywhere, and nothing can be done about it, or else the economy will collapse. And it's gone to the point where the problem is pretty dire. And we'll get into my opinions about it. But first, as you all know, it is the 8-minute mark. So now it is time for 2 minutes of keyboard sounds. Thank you so much, keyboard. I hope you all enjoyed that. And during the break, I was able to find a little bit more information that I'll give to you. So, Mount Everest is in Nepal, and the other side is in Tibet. The side in Tibet is very steep and sheer to where it's not really possible to climb up. Other information is after the last camp that you can stay at is what's known as the death zone, which means for most people, like, you can't acclimate to like the altitude and the pressure and the loss of oxygen, because like as you're climbing the mountain you begin to accumulate or to acclimate to the environment and stuff, but after that point it's not possible, and so the longer you stay there the higher chance you have of death. That's why it's called the death zone, and that's why the people waiting in line there for so long, some of them die because they're just waiting too long in the area that's you're not supposed to, and only one person can go up it at a time because it's a very narrow passageway. But let's get into my opinions on all this. As you can probably tell, I'm very disappointed by the fact that this has happened. Mount Everest has gone from a symbol of like great adventure and exploration. It was one of the like great feats. You know, there's all like we can go to the highest point in the world. You know, that's a significant accomplishment, significant thing to say. Um, and you know, you could say they're like, oh, we want to go to the bottom of the ocean, we want to go to the moon. Like, those are significant accomplishments, but it was turned into a tourist destination, as though things are also being. Like, you've got the billionaires flying around on their jets. Pretty soon, trips to the moon are going to be a vacation thing, and the moon's going to turn out the same way. Dead bodies, trash on the moon, and nobody really able to pick it up because of how expensive and time consuming it is. It's easier to just leave the bodies and the trash there than to do anything to fix it. And same thing's going to happen with the bottom of the ocean. I mean, there was that submarine that went to explore the Titanic that whoop, imploded, and that's just the start of it. And it's really, tourism based economies are very terrible for the locations. Like, for example, Hawaii has a very tourism based economy because they have to import everything. They're islands. They don't grow much on their own, so all the stuff they have is imported. And people go there like, oh, it's a nice vacation spot, and yeah, that's great. But then the natives of Hawaii are living in like poor slums because the state is very poor, because everything there is super expensive from having to be imported, and also their economy is just tourism based. Tourism based economies don't work. They don't work for the people there, they don't work for the land. They only work to benefit the people who are going on tours there. Because what happens is everything is dedicated to servicing the tourists rather than the people that live there. You know, if Nepal wanted to support the people that live there, they'd first of all stop the tours to Mount Everest. They'd send a crew up there and be like, okay, let's clean up this mountain, because now the highest peak on Earth is just covered in trash. That's a sad statement to say. They'd shut down all the camps and stuff. The issue is they can't do that though, because then all the Sherpas would be out of job. There'd be no more income flow for Nepal, and their economy would crash. Same thing if Hawaii suddenly stopped doing tourism. They don't have enough of another economy to the same. So what, they're gonna export pineapples? Like, there's not enough for them to rely on without tourism, and it's always going to be destined to fail. And because, you know what, humans suck. Humans like to get their grubby little mitts everywhere and ruin everything they touch. You know, there's a big garbage patch in the Pacific Ocean. Like, they have a whole massive ocean, and there's just a pile of garbage the size of Texas there, and no one's doing anything about it. But nobody of importance, nobody with real political sway is doing anything about it, because what's the point? It's not here. It's not our problem. It's the Mount Everest is a symptom of human existence. It's human nature to want to be the best. It's human nature to want to do the best, to achieve the we like the superlatives. We're trying to find the fastest person. We want to know about the tallest man. We want to know about the highest peak in the world. We want to know about the oldest fossil. It's all about discovering these ests. And that's great. And it's great to want to achieve greatness, and it's great to want to do great things. The only issue is that once you do that, what's next? Oh yeah, we climbed the highest mountain. Okay, don't have to do it again. No. The old Tom down the road's like, he did that. Well, I want to do that. If he can do it, I can do it. And then Tom and Harry did it, and old Richard's down there, and he's like, well, I can do it too. And then suddenly everyone is like, oh, I want to do it too. And not everyone can. And so instead of it being like, well, that's just something that's not for me, they changed that so that it is something for them. You know? And again, I want to make it very clear. Big props to all the Sherpas who trek up and down and up and down and up and down Mount Everest, because it is dangerous. And as touristy as it is dangerous. That's why there's so many dead bodies there. And they do it. They do it expertly, carrying around however many idiots paid them to take them there. And they do it. And it's really amazing for them. What's not amazing is all the rich people that are like, oh, I'm just going to pay $5,000, and guess what? I get to go up the mountain. I get to go up the high mountain because I paid $5,000. It hasn't become an achievement anymore. It's just become like a checkbox. You check off the box. And it's just disheartening. It's really disheartening to say that the highest point on Earth is covered in trash and dead bodies. And there's a huge queue of people waiting to take a selfie at the top of the mountain, and people are dying waiting in that line. And I'm not trying to throw the whole like, oh, this is because of social media. Social media, has made everyone want to go up there just to take a selfie. No, this has been, not this issue specifically, but similar issues have been around since before technology. They wanted to find the fastest way around the globe. There was I forget his name, but he wanted to circumnavigate the globe. It's always the biggest empire. It's always just been a history of people wanting to be the best and to do the greatest thing, and it's not always for the best. That's why my philosophy is that you don't have to be the best, you don't have to be the greatest, you don't have to be the smartest, the fastest, because there's always going to be someone smarter than you, there's always going to be someone faster than you, there's always going to be someone stronger than you, there's always going to be someone better than you. So what you have to do is just compare yourself to who you were yesterday. Just say, I don't have to be the best at this, but I want to be better than I was yesterday at it. I recently started learning how to whistle. And, most people can whistle at a very young age. My fiance whistles like she's playing an instrument. It's amazing. And I whistle like I'm trying to blow air through a tube. But if I do better than I did yesterday, that's good enough for me. Just gotta keep doing better. And so don't climb up Mount Everest. Just climb up the hill in your backyard and do it on your own. And don't throw trash and dead bodies at the highest point in the earth. Anyways, enough of that sad subject. When we come back, I am going to talk about another video game I enjoy a lot, Skyrim. But first, here is 2 minutes of Bella. 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 Bella, 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 Bella. Alright, welcome back. And shifting from that topic, I'd like to talk about a video game that I enjoy quite a lot and is very personal to me, and that's Skyrim. Skyrim, for those of you that don't know, is an open world role playing game by the game studio Bethesda, and I love that game. You are the main character, obviously, but you find out it starts. You're a prisoner, and then dragons attack. This takes place in like ancient fantasy times, and you get attacked by a dragon, and eventually you find out that you are dragonborn, which what that means is that you have the special ability of being able to suck in dragon souls and use that to basically cast spells using what's called a shout. And the dragons speak a language, draconic, obviously, and that language is just, I guess, so awesome that it causes like magical effects. Like you say certain words and like suddenly you're like shooting across super fast, you're like blowing frost everywhere, you're throwing someone like super far away, and you have the special ability of being able to just be really gifted at it. You're basically like gifted kid. Like you suck in a dragon soul and then you can just like read these draconic words on a wall and you're like, okay, I know how to do that spell now. But it's great because you're just thrown into the middle of this like civil war, with like another person who knows dragon shouts and like an empire, and you gotta like pick sides, while at the same time dragons have come back because like long ago there were dragons and they were like evil and enslaved the humans, and then like one dragon like expelled them all to whatever, or I think like killed them all and like buried them underground, because you can't, if you kill a dragon, it still has its soul, like it's not gone forever. So they were like buried deep underground, and then this like super dragon, this is sounding ridiculous, I'm sorry, this super dragon comes back from the nether world and starts reviving all the dragons, and you are special because when you consume the soul of the dragon, that's it. It's the dragon's donezo. Like you kill the dragon for good. So now you have to go and kill all the dragons, and people are like, what, dragons are back? That's crazy. I don't believe in dragons, because there haven't been dragons for like centuries, until they start like attacking everyone, and then you start eating their souls, and then eventually you kill like the super leader dragon, and then there's like a good dragon who like works with like the humans to like try to stop the other dragon, and then you have to make the decision. It's like, well, Do I want to keep this guy alive because he's been very helpful to me, or do I want to murder him because he's a dragon, which is what everyone else is telling me to do. And that's just the general story, but the most of it is just you exploring this ancient fantasy world where you can like cast magic and you have like skills, and it's a role-playing game, which more than just roleplay means that you usually have abilities and you can select whether you want to be like more stealthy, more like strong, more like heavy attacking and stuff. And I love games like that just because of how replayable they are. I have the unfortunate trait of being bad at video games. So when I play it, I always end up just doing the easiest thing, which is just like hiding in a corner and shooting them with my bow. And all similar games like that, I'm always like, okay, what can I do to where I don't die all the time? But if you're not like me and you're actually like skilled at video games, you can choose a bunch of different fighting styles and things, and you can actually like customize your character and stuff to be however you want them to be and play however you want. You can have a completely different game experience just depending on how you play your character. And what's even better about that is the mods, because Skyrim has been around for a long time, and so there's like a whole community of people that make mods for the game to where you can do whatever you want with those mods. You can have like super armor, you can like be a dragon. There's also like werewolves and vampires, and you can be like both of them. It's fantasy. It's really high fantasy. Like that is like peak fantasy, like any sort of fantasy thing. Like there's a magic school, and like I said, vampires and wizards and werewolves and like zombies. That's any sort of fantasy thing is there. But one of my favorite things to do in video games, as I mentioned last time, is optimization. Well, I said automation, but optimization is part of automation. Basically, depending on how skilled you are at certain things, your armor and weapons are stronger. Like the more points you have into like armor, the stronger armor you can make. You can also take potions, because there's potions in this, that make you better at making armor. And if you level up your skill in potions, you can make better potions that make you better at making armor. So it becomes like okay, well, how many steps do I have to go through so I can like make the best thing? And that's what I ended up doing. And what adds an even extra layer is it's not just making armor, you can also enchant things. Yes, just like Minecraft. You can enchant things to have more protection. So you can like, how can I make the strongest armor in the game to the point where you just become invincible? And that's fun for me. There's also this kind of like quiet mystery. I don't know if it was ever solved, like, or ever explained in game, or if I'm just bad at searching stuff, but basically, so there's elves, right? Because it's fantasy world, and there's a bunch of different types of elves depending on where they grew up. There's like the high elves, which are like very high class, like we're better than everyone else. There's just like normal elves. There's dark elves, who are like discriminated against because it's an analogy for racism. And then you have another group of elves who seem to be extinct, but basically they lived underground in these like brass cities that were like fully like, it was like full steampunk, where it's like there you got like gears and turning doors and like fully automated robots, which is very interesting in a fantasy setting that's supposed to exist like before technology, whenever it's just all like magic and like very limited technology, and you just have this fully technologically advanced civilization underground that doesn't exist anymore. They're like all in ruins, and you can like go into these ruins and they're like fully empty except for the robots, except for another like species of creature. Think like Gollum from Lord of the Rings, They're very like decrepit, like almost all on all fours, and you think like it's possible that those are those elves, and something happens to where they now, instead of being super technologically advanced, now they're just like, they're just little goblins. And there's a lot to explore. It's not just like the main storyline. There's a lot of different things you can explore with it, and it's a very fun game, and I would definitely recommend, because I sometimes get in ruts where I don't play video games very much. It doesn't really appeal to me, and then sometimes I'll play a game, it'll bring me out of that rut, and Skyrim was one of those games that brought me out of that rut. So I would definitely highly recommend it. But anyways, that's all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you fell asleep. If not, I've got more episodes that you can listen to fall asleep. But again, thank you all for watching. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and comment below if you have anything that you want me to talk about next, because I got lots of ideas and opinions on things, and I can talk about them. But anyways, thank you all for watching. I'll see you next time. Goodbye.